Well, thank you very much, Thompson family, for inviting me to talk to everybody in the UK. I certainly wish I could have been over there in person, but obviously plans have changed this year for many people, including this event. So let me start by sharing my screen.
There we go.
There we go. So, as I've spoken to many people here, if I can be of any assistance after this event, here's my contact information, obviously my email, and we are still working from our home office. I do have a training center. It's 25 minutes away and it's empty, and it's going to be empty for a little bit longer. So here's my cell number if anybody wants to reach out to me afterwards. Happy to chat to people. So one of the things I love about a franchise system is the opportunity to learn from each other. And I really think it's important that we pay attention to some of the more successful people. And when I started in Sandler, I started attending the Great Lakes regional meetings immediately. That, for those of you that don't know, the Great Lakes region consists of franchisees in the states of Michigan, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. And once in a while, Canadians go down, but I'm pretty much the lone guy that has been going down there 3 times a year for 14 years. And Al Strauss was the leader of that group. And, there's a few, more than a few, but there's a bunch of people that I refer to as the Godfathers. And these are people that when I started in Sandler had been around for about 20 years, had built very successful businesses. And when they spoke, I paid attention. So some of you, I think, know the rules of Sandler. The first one is we've got to be a product of the product. We need to really learn Sandler. And for those of you that are brand new to Sandler, welcome. I learned Sandler from obviously reading all the books, attending all the conferences, and listening to audio. Today, through Sandler Online, what a tremendous product we have to really, really learn all about Sandler. Second one, and I haven't always lived this. And whenever I've broken this rule, I've regretted it. So don't get creative. Sandler has a sales program, has a leadership program. There's other things as well, but those are the 2 core things. And if you focus on those 2 core products, I think you can have an extremely successful business. And for those of you that know Jerry Weinberg is one of the godfathers, and he's out of the Detroit area. He said, if you ever miss a Sandler conference, I'll know you're out of business. So these UK days and the 3 global conferences, particularly now that it's so much easier to participate via Zoom, always attend conferences. You're going to learn a ton of stuff. And then most importantly, particularly in this COVID year, keep your financial house in order. You've got to be aware of your finances, and you've got to be profitable. I'm sure you all know cash is king. And so I really thank Al Strauss for reminding us of these rules over and over and over again. Now, I want you to think for a moment about 2020. And, I'm sure you're like me, either December or January, so December 2019 or January 2020, you probably sat down with whoever is part of your business. Maybe it's me, myself, and I, or in my case, it's Stephanie and I, and created your strategic plan. I'm a huge believer in having a strategic plan. I'm sure you did yours. And then all of a sudden, I don't know whether it was February in the UK, but in Ontario, Canada, it was March that COVID had a huge impact on our business. So what I'd like to do is put you in groups for about 5 minutes. And here's a few questions if you want to take some notes. When COVID hit, what happened to your revenues? What happened to your expenses? I'm currently paying for a training center that we haven't been in since March 16th. I've been paying every month. Then what happened to your profits? So please be humble. I call it professional humility, which I define as brilliant as I am, I can still learn from others. And I'm not too proud to share what my real revenues, my real expenses are, my real net profits. So I'm going to ask Stephanie to put people in groups for about 5 minutes and sort of share, what have you learned in the last 6 to 7 months as a result of COVID impacting our businesses? And Stephanie, if you could put me in one group just as an observer, that would be great.
You're on mute, Andrew.
Okay, great. Thanks, Stephanie. So I'm sort of curious to hear, what were your conversations like? I had the pleasure of a group that was all pretty much brand new. So they're all getting their business up off the ground, so it's a little bit different. But who's happy to share? What did you hear in your group? And I don't know if you do this in training. I always say, what was the group conversation? Don't throw anybody under the bus. We're going to protect the innocent here. So it doesn't matter who said it. But what's one thing, Brian, you heard in your group around what have people learned through the COVID period here?
It was mixed. Some revenue has gone up. Some people have been given a revenue break, and others, although gone down, it's now recovered.
Okay, good. So that's great to hear. Thanks for sharing. Simon, what were some of the comments you heard in your group? Oh, you're on mute there, Simon.
Sorry, same group, Andrew.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. How about Lisette? What were some of the comments, the group that you were part of? Oh, you're on mute there, Lisette.
We had a really useful chat, but it wasn't we aren't operating as franchisees, so we ended up with a group of non-franchisees.
Okay. All right. Well, from our experience, our expenses really haven't changed very much. There's been a very minor decrease because we're not in our training center, so we don't pay for coffee, tea, juices and pop that we hand out to clients, and we're not buying office supplies. But other than that, our expenses haven't changed at all. So, the one thing about economic ups and downs is, as a business owner, your expenses haven't changed. So what are you doing to protect the revenue side? That's really the key question. Let's get back to this. Sorry, I think I've gone too far here. Oh, there we go. So I thought I'd share, and particularly the group that I was just part of, a number of people are brand new. So when I got involved in Sandler training, which I was an associate for about 18, 20 months, and in June of 2006, I started my own franchise. So I had been exposed to Sandler Canada for a little bit, and the Canadian people at that time, everybody was doing ongoing business at least 12 months in duration. So people would sign up for public training, which meant we would get money every single month from our clients. And that was something that I really liked. Let's bring money in all the time. I mentioned before that I've been part of the Great Lakes Regional Group for the last 14 years. And very strong influences from that group were Al Strauss, Jerry Weinberg, and some of you may remember Tom Scully. And they were all about selling lifetime President's Clubs. So they would charge more than what a one-year fee would be worth, but it'd be lifetime, and people would pay over 12, 18, 24, 36 months, whatever the economic capability of the prospect was. And the idea there was, let's keep our clients around as long as possible, because who knows, as they grow, we might be able to bring in additional services to those clients. And, thank you, Eldon McKeegan, and I know the Thompsons know the McKeegans very well. Eldon started the Halifax franchise and operated that for about 15 years until he brought in a partner who eventually bought him out. And I remember having dinner with Eldon and McKeegan many years ago, and they had started doing 3-year deals with their clients. And he said, we're really not charging them more money, but our clients are our best referral sources, so why wouldn't we keep them around? So at that time, my business model was 2-year contracts. And at that time, the fees were $20,000 Canadian. And so I walked away from that conference and said, you know what, I'm going to turn everything into 3-year agreements, and I'm going to charge $21,000. So I really wasn't very bold or brave at the time, but I immediately started keeping clients for 3 years. And that was actually a little bit of the magic that we did for many, many years. And it allowed us to continue to have good referral sources. But the other thing too is when you're with your clients that long, they're growing, they're adding staff. And as they add staff, they can bring more people to you. So those were some of the early lessons that really, really helped my business from a mindset perspective of, I want public training business, and I would like people to pay me regularly on a monthly basis for as long as possible. And with Sandler, there's lots of different business models. So I'm not trying to suggest for a moment that this is the only way that you could do business. You've got your own ability to make your own decisions. But these were some of the early influences on me that motivated me to have a public training business. And, you know, to be successful, we got to go back to Al Strauss's rules. Be a product of the product. So I noticed Andy there. Andy and I first met in 2008 while Dave Arch was conducting what was then the last Bob Pike creative training. So that's where I started to learn how to facilitate training as opposed to just regurgitating information. You know, I look back at my first couple of years of training and I have to say it was horrible. You know, I was pretty much a university professor spouting information in front of the room. It wasn't interactive, it wasn't fun, and I didn't keep clients for very long as a result of that. So when I took the Bob Pike training, it totally changed how I do things. And, you know, we've done it actually a couple of times. In 2018, I thought, you know what, it's time to go back and refresh and see if there's some new skills. So the Bob Pike group is out of Minnesota. So I went to Minnesota for a few days and took that training yet again, because it's one thing to be knowledgeable, but it's a totally different thing to be an effective facilitator of the Sandler material. The other thing that I would encourage, and in my initial years, I used to listen to CDs, because you guys probably have picked up now that Sandler Global is kind enough to record everything and then sell us back the content. But one of the values of listening to or watching on Sandler Online, the presentations, is the ability to pay attention to presenters, trainers that you like. Because everybody's got a different style and different approach. And when I'm participating at a conference today, 50% of what I'm paying attention to is how are they actually doing the session? What can I learn from the person at the front of the room? So I would encourage that. And, you know, when I think of being a product of the product, certainly in sales mastery, it's giving clients the opportunity to bring real life problems to the table. In our leadership for organizational excellence, which we use to replace our Sandler management solutions, there's the opportunity for leaders to bring real life issues to the group. And when you can facilitate a solution by doing a role play on the spot, well, a number of things happen there. First of all, they see the magic. They see the magic. You know the content. You can think on your feet, and you've got great Sandler technique to share. And that, I think, brings them back. And it gives them real economic value right then and there. And I think of one of my friends, Roger Wentworth, who's out of Dayton, Ohio. He always reminds me that, you know, your clients, when they have a choice to come to your training session, they remember the last experience. And if they can remember that with a smile on their face, then they're absolutely coming. And if they thought, that was a little low on value or was a bit boring, then they're not going to come back. So I think the opportunity to give real life experiences in the sessions that you conduct is a huge value to the clients. You know, Al Strauss, keep your financial house in order. Sometimes our confidence, our arrogance can get in the way. And for those of you that are relatively new to Sandler, you know, this concept of just structure the training according to what the prospect's budgets are. You know, everybody charges a different amount, and at some point in time, you'll get there too. But as I think back on my first days in Sandler, I'm pretty sure my first client for 12 months paid me $2,500. Then I did $3,000. Then I did 4,000. Then I did another 4,000. Then I did 5,000. Then I did 6,000. Then I did 7.5, and I kept it at $7,500 for a long time. Then I got to 10,000. Then I went to 11, and today we're about $13,000 a year for 1 year of either our leadership program or our sales mastery. But the key idea here is we have content that can really help people during these COVID times and all times. And if people can afford to pay you something, figure out what is it appropriate. Is it sales foundations? Is it 6 months of training? Is it 9 months of training? So structure the deal according to the prospect's budget, and that'll allow you to have more success. The other thing that I believe in, and I'm doing this with a prospect right now, and after this session, I've got a final call with them to conclude these terms, is I believe that we shouldn't discount our fees. So whatever value is in your head, whatever that number is, I think that should be the number. But we're all business people here, and I think we should be flexible in how we receive payment. So I told you earlier, my preferred program was 3 years, 30% down, and then 35 equal monthly payments of the remaining amount of money. Some people haven't been able to do that. So for those people, I would do, 36 divided by the total dollar amount so that it was equal monthly payments. And I've also done stair steps. I have 2 clients right now that signed with us. Excuse me. They're relatively small businesses. They weren't entirely profitable. And so year 1 is something like $500 a month. Year 2 is about $850 a month. And year 3 is about $1,300 a month. Over the 3-year term, I'm receiving the total dollar amount that I want to receive, but we structured the deal so that it was something that the prospect could say yes to. And I think that's really the key, is be flexible in your payment terms. And I'm sure some of you have done what I've done. I've had clients that have come to us during COVID and said, man, we just got smacked. We are hurting. Can I pause the payments, or can I terminate our deal? And I said, no, you can't terminate it, because right now you need us more than ever. But you know what? We're not going to charge you for 4 months, for 5 months, for 3 months. So it's varied depending on the client. And all those clients have stuck around. And those clients also realized, holy smokes, business isn't as bad as we thought. And many of our clients, quite frankly, are having the best years ever. So being flexible in your payment terms is going to help you bring clients on and keep clients for a longer period of time. Well, one of the things that I think back on is some of the Sandler Global Conferences that I attended back in 2008 to 2010. There were presenters that would talk about corporate deals and say, you know what, this Sandler gig, it is dead simple. Here's your objective. Go find 4 companies that'll pay you $75,000 to $100,000 each. You're not working very much. Life is great. Well, it was for a couple of years. But in 2011, I didn't see those people around anymore. That's the risk of corporate business. When times get tough, they get rid of you. Whereas public training business, they stick around. That's been my personal experience. So, a question for you is, how diversified is your client base today? How many customers do you have? And what's the maximum percentage that you will tolerate in your business model? A number of years ago, I did energy marketing, sold natural gas, and then I moved into selling electricity in the deregulated market here in Canada. I did that for 14 years. And the Competition Bureau said, if any one party had 20% market share, they were in a position to dictate prices. So in my head, absolute maximum, I don't want anybody to be 20% or more of my business. In fact, my personal comfort zone is actually 10. So today, We have 50 clients that generate our business. In the past, for many, many years, we had about 75 to 90. But what I realized is a lot of really small deals, it's really just sort of like assessment revenue from past clients and stuff like that. When you add up all that transactions, it really wasn't worth very much. So I'm actually more focused on about 50 clients generating us the revenue that we need for our business to achieve our business goals. And in June, I thought Andy did an absolutely spectacular job of outlining how he's built his business in a public model with some private business in a very diversified manner so that he can withstand if somebody leaves. And I don't know whether anybody has read the books Profit First. Profit First, it's a fantastic business book for business owners and for you to recommend to your clients. My experience is entrepreneurs are terrible financially. I don't know whether they're better in the UK. Another great book is called Simple Numbers, Straight Talk, and Big Profits. Simple Numbers, Straight Talk, and Big Profits. And Annalie and I have been accountability partners for a very long time, and I've really enjoyed having her as an accountability partner. So she knows that I really enjoy creating executive book summaries of any book that I think is really valuable, not only to me, but to my clients. So if any of you aren't really big business book readers, I get that. I personally read about 30 to 40 books a year. I do have about a 4 to 6 page executive summary of Profit First and Simple Numbers, Straight Talk, Big Profits. If you have not read those and you'd like to start with the executive book summary by me, I'm going to share Stephanie's email at the end of this presentation. Feel free to email her and ask her for it, because as business owners ourselves, we need to be very good financially. And when I started the business, my financial acumen was pretty poor. But I'm in my 15th year now. I've worked on learning to get better at that. We look at our profit and loss statement on a monthly basis and have done that for years and years and years and years. Along the way, that's helped me to be financially more knowledgeable. And really, our business consists of small, medium enterprise clients. And quite frankly, a lot of them aren't very good financially. So me learning just to manage my business a little bit better has allowed me to ask better questions of my prospects and to become clients. So with what we've talked about so far, I'm going to ask Stephanie to put you into breakout groups for 5 minutes. And what I'd like you to do in your groups is share what's 1 or 2 ideas that I've just talked about that you think could help you in your business. So Stephanie, if you'll put me in a different group just to observe and just talk for about 5 minutes, what's 1 or 2 things that you've heard right now that would be helpful in your business?
Andrew, you're on mute.
I'm just trying to get back to what I want to show. So I mentioned it in one of the breakout groups there that I would share some pain conversations that have helped me to acquire public training business for a minimum 12 months at a time. And it's really, really helped. I use this pretty much 100% of the time with prospects at some point in time. So first of all, I referenced one of the godfathers, Tom Scully. He used to operate in Ohio. He's since retired, and he was part of the Sandler family for about 25 years. And he built an excellent ongoing public training business. And he was quite the character. And at one of the Great Lakes regional meetings, Tom Scully and Al Strauss did a role play. And, it was absolutely brilliant. And I'm going to share this with you. And to help you remember it, I'm going to ask you to think about your own business. Think about your own business as you do some math here and write these things down. First question. Now, I hope you actually don't do a proposal or quote, but how many prospects do you meet with that you try to do business with? And by the way, I'm serious. I don't believe in proposals or quotes. We should co-create the solution and co-create the investment and write it up afterwards. But how many prospects are you meeting with on a weekly, monthly, yearly basis that you're attempting to do business with? Second thing, what closing rate would you like to have? What's your win rate? I remember when I started in Sandler, I thought I was a super stud. Reality was I never really tracked this before, so I didn't know. As soon as I started tracking, I was about a 25% win rate. The last 8-9 years, I've been between 50 and 60%. That's my historical win rate. I talk to some people that have a 75 to 80% closing rate. I'm certainly jealous of that. But what percentage would you like to win? I don't think 100% is ever possible, but what percentage would you like to win? And the third question, what do you actually win as a percentage? And then what's your average dollar amount per sale? This is going to vary for everybody depending on who you're sitting in front of. If you're sitting in front of people that are smaller and they can only buy sales mastery, that's one thing. If you're sitting in front of a president that has a sales team, that's a totally different thing. But what's your average sale worth? And now here's the important part. And I'm not going to ask you to share this, by the way, but I do want you to calculate this. How many people are you trying to do business with on an annual basis? What is the percentage difference of what you would like to win versus what you're actually winning? And then what is your average sale worth? How much money is that? By the way, I would do this in executive briefings when I'm doing a WIMP Junction executive briefing. This is absolutely awesome. And in an executive briefing, I'll say, by the way, that amount of money that you just calculated, is that meaningful to you? I know money's a conceptual issue. What's a lot to one person is a little to somebody else. But is that meaningful? Can I see a show of hands if it's meaningful? And people will say yes. And then I'll ask the question in an executive briefing, where is that money going today? And the smart people will say our competitors. And then I try to use a little bit of humor. I don't think I'm a very funny guy, but I'll use a little bit of humor and I say, is it okay if I take a bit of a political risk here? I know I'm not supposed to talk about sex, religion, or age, but I'm going to talk about politics. Is anybody here, I'm just curious, is anybody here a socialist? And I usually get some humor. No. Most business owners are conservative by nature. I said, so are you okay with giving that money to your competitors? And that usually hits home. So this is a very simple way. And if you haven't watched the Sandler Online video, Dave Mattson, Pain by the Numbers, I would urge you to watch that until it's burned into your brain. Because this is essentially a pain by the numbers exercise. The next thing I do though, and again, I learned this from Tom Scully many years ago and I still do it today, is I come back to, okay, well, how many prospects did you sit in front of? How many prospects did you sit in front of that you tried to do business with? And what was your actual win rate? So when I'm doing this with prospects, I hear things like 5, 10, 15, 20%. Okay. And how much time did you invest per prospect? And I have a lot of prospects that sell some sort of custom solution and they do unpaid consulting up the wazoo. So I'll hear things like 10, 20, 50 hours spent trying to win business. So then I say, okay, let's take a look at this. And I want you to think about this for your own business, your own situation. How many people did you try to do business with? What was your actual win rate? So if your win rate was 20%, 20% minus 1 means 80% of the time you lost. And how much time did you spend trying to get that business? We'll say 10 hours for simple stuff. And then I'll say, well, what if you learned how to sell more effectively, sell differently? And what if we could reduce the people you're wasting your time with by 50%? And so that's why we're dividing by 2. And then how many hours is that? By the way, this is usually in the hundreds, if not thousands. And then I ask people that are prospects in an executive briefing of some sort, how many hours a week do you work? Everybody says too many. Too many. And so we'll usually get 50 hours a week. So then I say, okay, take those number of hours that you've been wasting divide it by 50, what number do you get? And that's how many weeks a year they're wasting with people. And then I'll, again, try to use some humor. I'll ask people, what's your favorite activity? So I'm Canadian, right? So people say hockey, skiing, golf. And then I'll say, okay, well, what's the best time of year to do that? And if it's a golfer, they'll say the summer. Well, which month do you like the best? August. And after they've just calculated that they've wasted 4 weeks a year in front of people that didn't buy from them, I say, I give you permission next August to go to golf every single work day and not work. At least that way you'll feel good about yourself. You'll be more positive. You won't be wasting your time. And then I ask people in an executive briefing, which number bothers you more? The money on the table that's going to competitors or your time wasted? Time wasted. And the smart people say time wasted. And I'll congratulate them and say, you're right. Because we can show you how to sell more effectively to put the money back in your pocket, but I can't give back the time you wasted. So time wasted is a good answer. The people that say money, it's not a good answer. Not a good answer. So I would encourage you with every prospect to go through this exercise. Now, if you are sitting down with a VP of sales and it's an enterprise opportunity, you might need to say, hey, ballpark, I know you're not in front of your computer. I know you have these stats somewhere, but just big picture. How many people do you have on your team? 10. How many quotes a week are they doing? At least 10. How many weeks a year do they work? So if it's a much larger prospect than, you know, an individual or a president that's managing the sales team, so they know these things. If it's a much bigger prospect, you need to sort of ballpark it a little bit, help them through it. But when you do this, the amount of money that they're leaving on the table, giving to their competitors from deals not won is huge. It's huge. So what I'd ask you to do is get back in groups for about 5 minutes and just share. What are you charging your clients today? And if you were getting more effective at calculating the cost of pain, what do you think you could sell? We'll just use a 1-year sales mastery, a 1-year leadership program for. By the way, to get people into leadership, a very good pain by the numbers is the cost of a bad hire, the cost of a bad hire. So Stephanie, if you want to put people in groups for about 5 minutes, if we could calculate pain better, what do you think would be a good price point to sell a 1-year relationship? And Stephanie, if you want to put me in a different group, I'll just observe.
Sure. Here you go,
A
everybody.
show of hands, if in your group conversation, somebody said, you know what, if we could be way better at calculating pain, we could raise our prices and people would still buy. Please raise your hand if that conversation came out. Excellent. So that's why I wanted to share those 2 techniques, because it's absolutely been brilliant for me in my business. Now, Annalise here, and she knows that no presentation by Andrew Wall would be complete if I didn't give you a whole bunch of Excel spreadsheet data. And I appreciate that you probably can't read all this, but you will get the presentation, so you might care to take a look at it. In 2018, I said to myself, I am working my tail off. You know, for many years, our business has been around $1 million Canadian, and we're humping it. We are busy. But I asked myself, where are we getting the greatest bang for the buck? So SMP stands for Strategic Management Program, which is what our management program a long time ago was called, and I kept it that for a while. SM is Sales Mastery, and SF is Sales Foundation. So first of all, you might notice that the revenues are very similar. We have a good public training leadership program. I love it. I love it. And so I calculated how many hours a year am I spending preparing and teaching it, and what's the revenue and what did I get? So $1,000.77. On the sales program, $2,113. Now, I do a fair amount of consulting, and you may or may not like consulting. I'm not here to tell you you should do it if you don't want to. And I used to charge 4,000 for half a day, 7,500 for a full day. Today I charge 5,000 for half a day, and depending on what comes out of my mouth, either 7,500 or $10,000 for the full day. But when I do that, I was getting less than $1,000 an hour, and I didn't like that. So what I said to myself is, I need to raise the prices to 5,000 and 10,000. And that gives me $1,000. This blue box, this is me talking to myself. I'm a very visual learner. I need to change my rates today. We have a supervisor training program. We have a lot of contractor clients. And so middle level management people, they're causing the frontline staff turnover if they suck at their job. And there was no training for them. So we developed a $2,500 per person, 6 half-day session. It's essentially our management material lightened up a bit. That's been incredibly profitable. In 2017, it paid me $5,111 per hour of work. And it's incredibly powerful. Hourly coaching was doing it $500. I need to change this rate effective immediately to $1,000. We teach how to create a sales growth strategy. It's a consulting practice. And it was at $833 an hour. I said, no. I need to change it to $18,000. Today it is $20,000. We just completed doing this for another client. And some people are not in our leadership program, but they suck at hiring. They want to be taught how to hire. So we'll teach them how to do that. We will not do the recruiting. We are not a recruiting practice. We were charging $15,000. I really didn't know the amount of hours. I thought I just need to change this to 20 grand plus whatever assessments they buy are on top of that. So I share this with you to have you think about, how are you being paid? And are you being paid in a manner that you're happy with? So I did this in 2018. It helped me to change the prices. And just as I heard in the last group, I changed my prices and people still continued to buy. There was no change. There was no change. So I thought I'd share with you, for those that don't know me very well, what does our business look like today? So we're located in Milton, Ontario, just west of Toronto. We had one private training client. I've been actually working with companies that sell fireplaces, which are about a $4,000 on the low end to $15,000 high end, and barbecues that are on the low end, $500, high end, $15,000. You can spend $15,000 on a barbecue if you choose. And we expanded that client, and United Buyers Group is a strategic partner. They're a North American buying group of 220 fireplace and barbecue retailers. We do twice a month, 1 hour training. There's 4 companies in there. Our foundations program is public. We've changed how we do it. We used to do it over 8 sessions. Then we've gone to 2 days. Now we're doing 4 half days coming up here, just because Zoom all day is a bit tough. Our sales mastery program, it's a public program. It has always been a public program. Leadership for Organizational Excellence is a public program. And as many people as offer leadership for organizational excellence, you'll probably hear a different way of doing it. Ours is 3.5 hours once a month. Everybody in there, we teach strategic planning a little bit every session. And then one of the topics from the 6 P's areas. I mentioned before, we have a supervisor crew training program. Assessments have always been a big part of our business. I believe that we should assess the sales team and the owner first and foremost, find out what we're dealing with and who wants to change and who doesn't. And any consulting is going to be private. So we have had a public training business for a long time. It's the model that I was indoctrinated with. You guys might choose to have more enterprise or corporate business. That choice is yours. You can do it. Good luck to you. Good luck to you. During difficult times, it's been my observation, they run away and your expenses don't. So in our business today, our average client life cycle is 7 years. I believe in Sandler training, 18 months is the average. So I'm happy with that. Paul Lucian's average is 10 years. I'm jealous of his. You'll hear Jody Williamson, Bill Bartlett, John Rosso say, we've got some clients for 25 years. I'm definitely jealous of that. And I think, you know, you've got to be focused. You've got to be focused. And for us, I have always only wanted to work with motivated people. I am not here to pump you up. You better have goals. And during a prospect appointment, I'm going to find out what your goals are to find out whether they're big enough for us to work with you. So the people need to be motivated. The leadership needs to be motivated. And they have to say they want to grow dramatically. Because if you want to double your business, 25% compounded growth year over year, it takes 3 years to double. If somebody's more conservative in their objectives, 20% year over year, it takes 4 years to double. 15% I think is 5 years, and 10% is 7 years. So if you sit with a president, business owner who says, we'd like to have dramatic growth, and you ask them, well, what does dramatic growth look like to you? If they say 20%, say, you know what? Be happy to work with you for the next 4 years to help you accomplish that. By the way, when you accomplish that, what is it going to do for you? So be focused on what you're doing. And I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to you. I've enjoyed hanging out with you guys at global conferences, the times I've been able to come over there. You know, I wish I could have a pint with you later tonight, but obviously I won't be able to. And, you know, if I can be of any benefit to you, I'm happy to speak to people. You know, for about 1.5 years, I was coaching a European, and people have helped me in my business, and they continue to today. And I'm happy to give back any way I can if you think I could be of benefit to you. I am absolutely terrible at scheduling my own calendar. Just ask folks like Annalie and Rian who have experienced my bad scheduling of my own calendar. So Stephanie manages it. If you email her, she'll be happy to get you on my calendar via Zoom and listen to you and help you any which way I can.